Good afternoon, guys. Just got finished wrapping up an incredible podcast for Talk4, episode 111 with Joshua Cabo Gunderson. Cabo is a badass former F-15 fighter pilot and the former commander of the F-22 Demo Team out in the States. He's a great guy. He gave great advice, and the questions and conversation was just on fire today. I just thought it was a great episode, honestly, and I really enjoyed it. He's also doing some great work right now, foundations, and he's making some big moves in the world. So yeah, proud of that guy, and I can't wait for you to hear all about it in this episode. And episodes like this are made possible by the people who do hit that subscribe button and spread some love. If you're on Spotify, if you're on Apple Podcasts, there is a rating and a review button where you can leave a 5-star or a little snippet of what you just think of me and the show and stuff. And it just helps so much with the algorithm, getting the show exposed to new people, and helps me just get that a little bit closer to the next big guest or the next incredible episode, and really to the true vision I have for this show. So going to ask you if you can do the same today. Please do pitch in and put the ladder down for me by just hitting subscribe or leaving a rating and review. It makes a massive difference. But yeah, if you guys need convincing with a great episode, then it's coming up right now, and I'm going to take you over there straight away right now. So guys, enjoy and see you over at the episode. Cheers. How's it going, guys? Welcome to episode 111 of Talk4, the Quickfire podcast, where we ask 4 great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Louis Skupien. That's me. And let me introduce our special guest for today, Joshua Cabo Gunderson. I mean, could you get a more fighter pilot-esque surname than Gunderson? I mean, awesome. Dude, how's it going, man? And yeah, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, doing well. It's Saturday morning here in the States, and really excited to get into the podcast and have a great conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And yeah, we mentioned at the start of the podcast, for me, it's afternoon right now in the UK. It's a beautiful, sunny UK day, and found out just a minute ago that it's 5:30 in the morning for Cabo over there, dude. So yeah, how you feeling, man? You ready to podcast? Are you still waking up?
Great, yeah. No, I'm an old man when it comes to bedtime, and I wake up early, so it's all good.
Oh, that's great, man. Well, I'm glad to hear it. So anyway, like I mentioned, we've got a pretty tight packed kind of community of people. We know other guys who've been on the show before, and man, I've just been so excited to talk to you. You've got some great stuff to share, and I heard your podcast on a long drive on the motorway here in the UK with Rain. And yeah, great guy, great podcast. So I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk to you and ask some questions, man. So for the people listening in, let's start with some backstory then. So tell me about your backstory, Cabo. So what was the kind of like first bit of aviation inspiration that you kind of got in life, and then how did you kind of go towards getting into the military, becoming a fighter pilot, and just a little bit about that kind of career starting for you, and the passion origin, if you will?
Yeah, it's honestly it's a funny question to answer because I don't remember a time where I didn't want to fly fighter jets. From the time I was a very young kid, like every memory I have was always really focused on going to the Air Force and flying fighter jets. And maybe the Navy, depending on yeah, I want to at least give them some credit too and a shout out. But yeah, it's really just all about flying fighter jets. And I grew up in Tampa, Florida. Most of my family actually immigrated from Cuba back in 1966. So, none of my immediate family in terms of like uncles, parents were in the military at all, and none of them were pilots. So I've always wanted to fly airplanes, and I was very, very thankful from a young age that I had an amazing support structure for my family that really supported my goals and dreams. And through that, they took me to different kind of aviation museums and air shows. And I'm assuming most young boys, young girls that want to fly airplanes, their parents take them to museums, and they're a young kid. I think it's kind of a it's like, oh cool, this is neat. I don't know if they quite realized that I was pretty keen on actually making it happen. And yeah, so I just from school I went to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I attended the 4-year university there, along with all the military training that goes along with it. I got to fly gliders there and actually taught in the glider program. Also lived in Spain on exchange for 6 months with the Spanish Air Force. And then from there, I went and flew F-15s and then F-22s, and got to finish my career with the Air Force full time, at least, doing the F-22 demonstration team job. And that was an absolute pleasure and an honor to be on that team and to represent, in my opinion, the coolest airplane in the world, and also some of the most amazing maintainers and team members that I could ever hope for.
Yeah, man, that's pretty cool. So was it always Air Force for you, or was the Navy on the cards too for it? Or yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I definitely think for me the end state was flying jets. So what I did was I looked at all the options and looked at the Naval Academy, looked at the Air Force Academy, and when I kind of went through it, as I grew up, I kind of obviously gravitated to certain airplanes that I really liked. And the airplane I loved growing up was the F-15C. And I got to see the F-15 demonstration at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. And at the time, Captain John Screech York was a demonstration team pilot. So that was a pivotal moment for me in terms of seeing the airplane I always wanted to fly and loved. And it kind of narrowed my focus down to the Air Force. And while I think the Navy has obviously great fighter pilots, great airplanes, to me it really came down to I don't want to live on a ship for 6 months. And then I also looked at just the percentage of pilots. I think the Air Force offers a wider array of aircraft and wider array of mission sets. And that to me was interesting. And the percentage chance of people that went and flew Air Force, or flew airplanes in the Air Force by way of the Air Force Academy was the highest percentage chance of success. So we have other commissioning sources. So when I say commissioning, that means joining the Air Force as an officer, and you have to be an officer to fly airplanes in the Air Force, Navy, or Marine Corps. So the highest percentage chance was to go to the Air Force Academy, compete for a pilot training slot, and that was like the best opportunity I had to go fly jets. And that's kind of where I focused my efforts. And honestly, I this sounds maybe silly and irrational looking back on it, but I really didn't leave myself any options. There are other ways to become an officer in the Air Force and fly, but I kind of just applied to the Air Force Academy and kind of just said like, I'm either going here, or I'm not going here, and I'll figure it out afterwards if I don't get in.
Yeah, man, it's pretty cool. And talking about that as well. So obviously, I listen to the podcast, but people who are listening in who are new, haven't heard of you before, kind of like getting the picture and everything. There's such an amazing full circle story with you and Screech there. So kind of walk us through that full circle with him and how that kind of all turned around to be, kind of mirror image a few years later.
And what's crazy is that the story continues to evolve, and when I think it's gone full circle, it just continues to do more iterations, which is pretty funny. Um, but yeah, so it was in 1998 at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida, my hometown, and my mom took me to an air show. We see the F-15C demonstration, and I'm obviously an 11-year-old kid just stunned at how amazing this airplane is. It's like ripping across the sky, super loud and fast. And then afterwards, we hang around to take a picture with the demonstration team pilot, and it happened to be Screech. So we can take a picture. I obviously don't know him at the time, and we go about our merry way. I keep going on with life, and then go finish up high school, earn a slot to go to the Air Force Academy, finish that, go to pilot training, and then I finish well enough to get an F-15 out of pilot training, and then from there I go to Klamath Falls, Oregon, and that's where the training course is for the F-15C. I'm getting ready to go for a flight, and I turn around the corner and I see this guy that looks incredibly familiar, and I don't know, I can't like put my finger on where I place him in my memory, and how I know this guy, but I see his helmet bag, and his helmet bag has a West Coast Demo Team patch on it, and I thought to myself, I was like, there is absolutely no way this is the same guy, So I call my mom and ask her for the picture that we took, and she rifles through all of our stuff, back home in Tampa, and finds the picture, sends it to me, and sure enough, it's the same guy. So it's crazy that 12 years later, I meet this guy after having gone to, finished school, gone to university, pilot training, and then got to F-15 school. That 12 years later from an air show, I see the same guy. And then we actually got and fly some training missions together in Oregon, and tell him the story, show him the picture. We kind of find out that we're from the same hometown, like so many parallels in our lives. It's pretty wild, and very, very thankful that had that interaction and had him as a mentor since then. And I think it really goes to show. I mean, obviously I had Raz on the podcast and talk about air shows and impacts. I think it really goes to show that one small interaction could dramatically change the direction of somebody's life and inspire some young kid to pursue their goals, which I think is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's that story is an exemplary example. That sounds so good. Exemplary example of exactly just how like of what that motive is meant to be with the air shows and doing those demonstrations. That's exactly what's meant to happen. It's meant to help recruiting. So has that happened for you then? So what happened with him? Are you seeing that happening in the next generation of people then from the air shows and displays that you did? I mean, how effective actually are the air shows that get run on the recruiting effort? I've always been curious to know like if there's actually kind of a metric and stuff, like if suddenly air shows stopped, how much of a dramatic effect would that have on recruiting and especially on like the youth coming into aviation, do you think?
I think if air shows stopped, and I think if specifically if the military fast jet portion stopped, I think it'd be a pretty dramatic impact on recruiting. And, everybody I've talked to that's flown airplanes with me in different squadrons, the kind of origin story always involves some air show of some variety. They go to air shows as a kid, they see the airplanes, and they may have wanted to fly jets beforehand, but then when they go see it in person, they're just absolutely blown away. That helps inspire them to pursue their career in aviation and the military specifically. In terms of metrics, it's a really difficult thing to track. So what we can track is exposure, and I'll give you an example of that. I started the demonstration team job. It was in 2020. So we did like one air show in Singapore, and then COVID kind of hit the States and the lockdown started happening. So we're sitting there, we're like, man, we've got a mission to do. We've got a job to do, and that's to go, do air shows, interact with the local community. And kind of our mission statement for the demo teams is recruit, retain, and inspire. So we're trying to recruit people, obviously, for the military in whatever capacity, retain the people that are currently in the military, kind of showing them what the military does. And it's, a lot of times in the military, we're very compartmentalized. You have your job, and then you're within your people that also do your job. And it's very insular. So getting exposure to other mission sets in the military is important as well for retention. And the last piece there is to just inspire Americans and people like, coalition partners and friends around the globe that we go do air shows and support, because that piece is really critically important to me and to obviously our nation as well. And when I say inspire, it's like I never talked to anybody and was like, man, I'm trying to convince you to go join the military and go fly airplanes or be a mechanic or public affairs or any of those jobs. That was never my goal. It's like I'll happily share my story, and I'll happily, and the people on the team will happily share their story. And if something there resonates and you're like, man, that sounds really cool, or maybe it's an amazing opportunity that I'm excited about, and you need some help getting across the finish line, then like, of course, we want to help you. But if somebody wants to be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, a mechanic, whatever it is, like I just want them to pursue their goals and be inspired to kind of achieve success in whatever they define. So going back to your question of like, how do we track it? It's difficult, right? Because if you meet a 10-year-old, or in my case, 11-year-old kid in an air show, you have to now follow this, kid from 10, 11, 12, all the way through the time they're able to join the military. And that's a really hard metric to track. I will say that we track obviously how many schools we went to. And during COVID, when we couldn't travel, we started leveraging things like this. So we started getting on Zoom calls, and we basically reached out to the communities we were supposed to support with their shows that got canceled, and started Zooming with students in classes and being able to kind of share our stories and what we do as a team in that capacity. And we also started doing some creative things with cameras. So we started doing 360 footage inside the F-22, which hadn't been done before. And what that allowed us to do is to leverage, things like VR goggles and cool piece of equipment, piece of the kit, if you will, and then we put that in the goggles, and now we have kids putting VR goggles on in the cockpit of the F-22 and being able to watch the whole demonstration. And
Cool.
and they take the goggles off, and they like you just see their face and their eyes light up. It's pretty incredible. So we can track how many students we've met, how many schools we've been to. And the other thing too, probably 6, 7 years ago, I actually deleted all my social media. I was like, I'm done. Like, I just want to like go live life and live in peace and and not be distracted. But I started the demonstration team job, and I kind of gravitated towards Instagram because it was really, pictures and videos, and it was pretty much what we were doing, in terms of the demonstration team job. And I've been able to have a lot of young adults, whether they're in middle school, high school, university, reach out to me directly on Instagram and then ask me questions of, hey, what advice do you have for this scenario? And then I'm able to interact with them. And now, 4 years, 5 years removed from the demonstration team job beginning, I have people telling me, hey, I'm flying F-22s, or hey, I'm at the Air Force Academy, or hey, I got, whatever it is. And that's been incredibly powerful. So I can definitely track that. And seeing a tangible impact to what air shows do is important. I think if we always focus on the large scale numbers and success, and we overlook the small victories, then sometimes we kind of miss the boat. We kind of miss the picture on that.
What's up, guys? Just taking a quick break here just to hear from our sponsor, Shopify, for today's episode. Guys, honestly, starting this podcast and stuff, making my own personal website, and even my business website too, it just seemed like such a faraway dream for me, honestly. And I just had no idea how to even go about it. And I thought I needed to code. I thought I needed all these skills and degrees and stuff to start my business. But that has been completely proven wrong by Shopify. Shopify is the e-commerce platform that runs everything that I'm doing just about, and they are the all-in-one platform for running websites. They have their own app store, dude. They have their own app store for websites, so you can have everything from the countdown timers to the subscriptions to conversion upsells to blog posts, pages, and it's all just managed in this one website or app. Even they've got apps on smartphones. It's just amazing. And as a promotional offer for the Talk4 podcast, we can get you started on Shopify for just, wait for it, for just £1. Just £1 to start your business online and get it growing in absolutely the best platform there is for running an online business nowadays. So guys, head to the link in bio and yeah, we've got a code there and get started. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. I mean, I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners on kind of listening into the show regularly. And I think that's a really important marketing piece too, and something that people can take away. It's that when you have a business or if you have a service or something, when you can provide an experience, that's actually the most effective form of marketing because it leaves such an impression. So it's these interactions with people. So literally just being there, taking a photo or giving someone an experience, being up and close with something like a jet. I think people can take something away from that too, in terms of marketing and strategy too, because like an experience makes such an impression on people, and it creates fans and it creates enthusiasts for life too, doesn't it? Like for me, when I went flying for that first time, I've literally in that space of about a year and a quarter or something since then, I just haven't been able to like unhook myself from this industry. I mean, look at my wall, dude. It's taken over.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like as an example related to what you're talking about, you have three businesses of equal caliber, but one business does something above and beyond to create an experience for a potential client, partner, collaboration, whatever it is, and that experience, one, like you have the amazing experience, which is cool, right? Especially when it comes to aviation, like it's pretty awesome. But two, and more importantly, it shows the potential client, potential collaborator, whoever it is, that you are investing your time into them to make their experience awesome. And ultimately, when we look at business, we look at the military, we look at life, investing in relationships is really how you win. We can't do any of this our own, so we have to find ways to collaborate and work with other people. And if you show you truly care about other people and are investing time in them, the returns on investment, are going to be massive. And it's great because it kind of, action kind of produces more action and continues to snowball and lead to some amazing opportunities and success and growth.
So true, man. Okay, so let's round off that backstory then with some jet talk then, dude. So you got the F-15, you transitioned over to the Raptor. So kind of just, run us through both jets, man. What were they like? What were the kind of fess ups between the two? What was stronger in some areas? What was weaker in other areas? Because I mean, in that year and a quarter, year and a half or something, I've been kind of in the aviation industry. I've definitely seen that there's a bit of a divide between people saying, oh, the F-15 is the best in the world, and then the F-22 is the best in the world. And these people have that kind of a, camaraderie and everything there. And, there's a constant debate about it. So, run us through, you did both, preferences and differences.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'll caveat this whole thing or start off by saying I guess I share this advice with young adults or like people that are in pilot training, for example. a lot of people tell me, hey, I want to go fly like cargo airplanes because fighter pilots are jerks or whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, well, how many fighter pilots have you talked to? They're like, none. Like, okay, great. So I go back to the comments of like YouTube or Instagram, whatever it is, and you're just like, okay, if these people are saying, oh, the F-15 is the best, F-22 is the best, like, well, who's flown either of these airplanes, right? Um, and so, going to between the two, I grew up and loved the F-15. Like, it was just, to me, it's an absolutely gorgeous airplane. And what I really loved about the F-15 was that it was singularly focused on air-to-air combat. It wasn't trying to do air-to-ground and air-to-air. It's like we're just like really good at air-to-air. And I liked that focus because I wanted to have that specific skill set that was like, I guess, a deeper dive into that mission set and an airplane that was designed just for that mission set. When I look at the A10, for example, the same kind of story, right? Where it's designed and optimized for air to ground and close air support, mission sets, and it's the best in the world at that mission set. So that's what I love about the F-15. The other thing about the F-15 is it has a center stick that physically moves, and it's also there's a lot less protection, a lot less computer involvement in the flight controls. So you feel a little more directly connected to the flight controls in the F-15. And as a result, what I loved about the F-15 was that your worst pilot may be here and your best pilot's like way over here. So there's a massive gap between like the worst pilot and the best pilot because there's a lot of pilot proficiency and skill and experience that goes into flying an F-15 very well, both within visual range of the dogfighting arena as well as the long range, kind of more moving chess pieces on a chessboard kind of game. So I really love that. And then going to the F-22, in terms of performance, the F-22 is the best airplane in the world. I'm happy to debate anybody on that one. It's just a remarkable airplane. And in terms of sensor integration, performance, stealth, all the things that make an F-22 very unique and special. I think, it's a continuation of the F-15, which was the best airplane in its day, and it reigned kind of supreme for so long. And we build upon that. Now we add more technology and we get to a Raptor. And that's kind of how I view the airplane. So, if I had to pick an airplane, to go fly and take into combat, like without a doubt, it's the F-22. And I'm very, very confident in saying that, regardless of what other airplane it is, the F-22 is pretty fantastic, and I'm very happy with that. And additionally, I was in the Middle East with the F-15 as well, but it was mostly just like supporting different efforts out there, whereas the F-22 actually employed weapons and all that stuff. So to me, the F-22 is kind of has a special place in my mind for that experience. And then I also flew it a lot longer than the F-15 as well. So definitely would pick the Raptor. But like I said, the F-15 was kind of a childhood dream airplane. So I'm so thankful I got to fly it. And I still absolutely love the airplane.
Yeah, absolutely. What's that transition like between the two then? So when you go, you leave the cockpit of the Eagle, you go into the F-22, how hard is it to kind of reintegrate from one to the other? And yeah, what did it feel like?
Yeah, it's so on the, I guess, more matter of fact side, it wasn't bad at all. The F-15, the F-22 both have the air-to-air mission sets. So in terms of the mission sets and familiarity with those topics and the concepts and everything, it was very easy to transition. The airplane obviously is very different in terms of systems. So you spend a lot of time in school learning systems and how the airplane performs, and then you go there and fly it. The maneuverability and performance of the F-22 is noticeable right away. The other thing that's really cool about the F-22 is there's no canopy bow. So in the F-15, you have like a two-piece canopy, right? It just closes down. You have a canopy bow here that's right in front of your face. The F-22 is just a single piece of canopy over you. So the visibility in the F-22 is great. And then one of the funny things, so away from the matter of fact stuff, the funny things is the F-15, that most fighter jets have a nose wheel steering system that is like, keyed by basically pushing a button on the control stick. And the F-15 control stick is in between your legs and it moves around the whole thing. But you push this button, then you can engage nose wheel steering. And the F-22, the controller, the flight control stick is on the right-hand side of the airplane, and that button's still there. So I remember the first couple of flights, I was trying to taxi on the ground, and I'd be looking at something or looking through a checklist, or distracted with something else in the cockpit, and I would instinctually go grab like the center stick that wasn't there anymore to like turn the airplane on the ground. And you're like, oh, it's not there. So then you have to like grab the control stick. But once you're flying it, the F-22 is so intuitive. It really is. Even though it has a lot of flight control computers and things that are managing the systems, it truly is transparent in the cockpit. It flies like a fighter, performs incredibly well, and really, really enjoy the transition into the F-22 and the subsequent years of flying it.
Nice, man. What's so this is current then. So what's obviously, like you mentioned, time around the A10 Demo Team, obviously on the air show tour as well. I'm sure you had lots of time seeing all of that. What's your thoughts on the A10 being phased out then? Give me a little rundown of all that. Is it right? Is it wrong? I've heard quite a few mixed opinions there. What do you think?
I don't want to jump in and say it's right or wrong, black and white, because I'm obviously out of the air show community now, and I don't really know what the context was and what factors the leadership had to weigh in their decision to say this is the last year of the A10 demonstration team. And a funny little background story. I actually, at a pilot training, I was assigned A10s. So my list was like F15, A10, because going back to that, I want an airplane that does a specific mission set. And there were no F-15s available at the time when I finished my pilot training, got my assignment. So I was supposed to fly A10s, had that assignment for 4 months, and then actually got switched to F-15s. Basically, we were able to do some miraculous trade where two guys that wanted A10s ended up getting F-15s, and I had an F-15. Another buddy of mine had an F-15 as well, and our A10, we both wanted the F-15. So we swapped and ended up going on the F-15 path. But I think the A10, there's obviously the inspiration piece of young kids wanting to fly and loving the airplane. It's kind of a cult classic kind of airplane. There's just a massive following of the A10, and I think it's a phenomenal airplane. I think what's really remarkable that I've seen at air shows, the A10s, is how the crowd reacts to the A10. It's not the fastest, it's not the most maneuverable. We get it, but the airplane has saved countless lives. And when you meet people at air shows and they tell you, hey, my mom, my dad, my uncle, my cousin is here because of this airplane and the people that fly it and maintain it, that's pretty powerful. So I think the A10 is an amazing connection with the American public because of its history and because of what it has done, over the last, couple decades of its service. I realize that there's an ongoing debate of we're going to, completely go to the A10. It sounds like that's the path we're going down. And once again, I'm not a policymaker. I don't make those, I don't understand what factors they're considering to make that decision. And the F-35 is a great platform. It's not going to replace the A10. The A10's in terms of that specific mission set. The F-35 is great in other capacities and way better than the A10 in other capacities. But in terms of that specific niche role of CAS, close air support, the A10 is king for sure.
Yeah, good rundown there. I think that's probably about right, dude. In terms of the inspiration piece, then talking about flying the jet and how that feels. So I got a 2-piece question for you here, then kind of. So, out of my own curiosity, obviously, I've done a couple of flights and stuff. I've been in Red Bull helicopter, a few things, felt some G's, but I could not possibly visualize or imagine what it must feel like to be in the F-22 and do, like, for example, the vertical takeoff when you're going flat and then it just goes straight up. So how does that feel? And the 2-part question to that as well is, we kind of mentioned it before we got on the podcast here and stuff, but I've got an experience coming up in September that I really want to survive. And without giving too much away, we're looking at about 5 to 7 Gs, about 30 times. I think they said it's like 26 minutes, 5-minute break, another 26 minutes of just constant sprint. So any tips for surviving that as well would be greatly appreciated. So talk to me about what it feels like flying the F-22, and if you can lace in any tips, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. The G's in the F-22 are pretty great in terms of its performance. And what's actually nice about it, there's the onset rate in the F-22 is not nearly as fast as an F-15 or F-16. So the F-22 can pull more Gs, but the onset rate is not as fast. So it's a little more comfortable, which is nice. But it still is an absolute beast of a machine. And when you take off and go vertical, the airplane is just, it's unreal that the airplane is doing that. You have a 60+ thousand pound airplane that's literally just going straight up, and you're like, this is a spaceship. I don't understand. So the engineers and the people that, engineers, the people that develop the airplane, design the airplane, produce it, like hats off to them because they obviously created an amazing product. So can't thank them enough. And in addition to the maintainers that keep this thing flying, right? The guys turning the wrenches, fixing the computers, keeping the airplanes healthy and safe. Like hats off to them because they're the ones that allow all this stuff to happen. Super fun to fly it, but when the airplane's going vertical on takeoff, it's because the maintainers, were able to get the airplane in tip-top shape and ready to go for an air show. Then in terms of your second part of your question, how do you survive? I would say, the best thing you could probably do is, I don't know if you had any kind of like workout routine. I think any kind of lifting you can do, like weights with your lower body, so squats, deadlifts, etc., and working on your core. Those are really the muscles you use to squeeze your blood back into your upper extremities, right? So for guys, we typically think, guys like upper body, women are more like lower body, if you would, in terms of like what they focus on working out. And guys instinctually like respond by like tensing their upper body, and that's the absolute opposite thing you want to do. So as you're getting ready to pull the G's, you want to think about squeezing your legs all the way from like your calf muscles, your quads, your glutes, and your abdomen, and then your upper body needs to be very, very relaxed to allow that blood flow to go up and down. But the stronger your legs are, the stronger your core is, the more you can actually force that blood back and keep it in your upper extremities. And also drink lots of water. It's actually amazing. If you're there's some crazy statistic, I'll probably misquote it, but if you're like 2% dehydrated, your G tolerance goes down by like 50%.
Wow.
So make sure you have plenty of, it's wild. Like I may have misquoted that. So, but it's something remarkable like that. So make sure you stay hydrated, have some food. Some people think flying in jets and on an empty stomach is a good idea. It's not. So have banana or something and have a great time.
Oh man, that's hilarious. And that's music to my ears, dude. I got 210 new PB on deadlift the other day too. So I'm like, yes.
Perfect.
Okay, man. So we kind of alluded to it earlier and stuff, and kind of, yeah, we have entrepreneurs on the show. They always want to get a little piece of information from high performance teams, high performance guys like yourself. So let's dig into it. So time in the military, in the F-22 team, you just said there, obviously in the last piece, the maintainers, man, they're vital. It's not just a pilot flying a spaceship. It's maintainers, it's people doing logistics, it's getting over to the air shows. It's just it's a chain reaction of people working in sync, and small mistakes, small miscommunications lead to big problems and these kind of things where it's like, life and death. Then you've got, formation flying, Blue Angels, people like that. It's just, you have to be so on it with these kind of things. So, you were the commander of the F-22 Demo Team. So in your kind of opinion, in your time there, in terms of like leadership skills, teamwork and stuff, what were some of those kind of fundamentals, at least, that you were sort of employing there, and the things that really work the best in terms of making a team well-oiled and just working in sync? So just anything we can take away from your experience there and that kind of leadership piece?
I think, I don't know if we have time on the podcast to kind of go through some of the amazing experiences that, kind of shaped how I view leadership and how I view the team and what our mission was. But, I'd say the overarching thought would be, Richard Branson, obviously, or Sir Richard Branson says, hire great people and get out of the way. And that was one of the hardest things, that I think we did every year, was to hire the right people. So we go through an interview process to make sure that they have the requisite experience, but also the right personality and temperament to do the airshow thing. You're potentially on the road for 200 days a year, traveling around, talking to people after long days of working on the airplanes. So finding the right temperament and right person is really important. So like step one, find the right people and then allow them to do their job, provide the guidance for the organization and allow them to use their specialties and their focus areas to do their job. But we often see people that are type A personalities want to control everything and know everything that's happening. I don't need to know what's happening. Like you are intelligent, competent people, and I'm empowering you to do your job. What I need to know is if you need help getting your job done. So if you're running into a brick wall and and you're getting to a stopping point where you need some help, then let me know and I'm happy to like jump in and give you the support you need. Talk to whoever it is, get you the funding, get you the thing, whatever it is, and we'll make it happen. So I think hiring the right people, allowing them to do their job, and then supporting them when they need it. But then when they don't need it, allow them to just kind of focus on their job use their expertise in their area. I would say caring for people. So that's obviously a massively important thing. These airplanes are cool, but the people that fix them, people that fly them, people that do logistics, like you mentioned, like that's what makes this all work. Without them, without that system, it doesn't work. Even if we want to go down the crazy path of AI and like autonomous fighter jets and whatever, like you still need people fixing the airplanes, and you probably still need people writing the code to how to fly the airplanes, and probably, pilots managing it as well. So there's people still are at the root of everything we do, and you have to ultimately invest time in them. Quick anecdote. I was in Okinawa, Japan, and one of my squadron commanders, Lieutenant Colonel Scott Skid Row, he's a colonel now, and like phenomenal. Like most people can't balance being an amazing fighter pilot and also being an amazing leader, and he definitely did both. So he would take the time to truly invest in other people, to the point where he would write handwritten letters to parents. If somebody accomplished something or finished an upgrade or received some praise and an award for what they did, like he would write them a handwritten letter, send it to their parents, because he cared that much about people. And he was also one of the best fighter pilots I've ever worked with and flown with. So taking care of people and investing time in them, showing them that you truly care about them, you're going to get so much of a return on that person in terms of productivity, in terms of buy-in. You're not going to get that if you don't spend time on them. So your job as a leader, my mind, is to help guide the team through direction, help provide them the guidance and support they need, and invest time in them. An example from the team would be, we had one of our team chiefs. The first year I was there, second year I was there, he wanted to, go pursue a different job in the Air Force after his demonstration team job, and he was absolutely the right perfect fit for this job. So there's no question in my mind that he was going to do a poor job at it. But we worked really hard to make the connections, to get him the opportunity to interview for this job, and it worked out. And he's there now, and he's loving it. And people see that. People recognize if you're taking your time to invest into them, they realize that, they recognize it, and they buy into the team. They're like, okay, the people I work with really care about me, and therefore I care about them, and I want to contribute. So that's probably the second thing. So one, hire the right people. Two, invest in your people, and also, hold the line, right? There needs to be some standard of excellence that you have to achieve, and you have to be unwilling to accept anything less than that. Not only because it's your job and it's a mission, but it's also a function of, if you accept less and less from people, intrinsically people will give you less and less. So if you show people that, hey, I'm investing in you, I want you to do well, and I'm here to help you however I can, and I'm also holding this very high standard, they're going to have this amazing light bulb transformation where like it clicks, and they're like, wow, I'm capable of doing all these things. And before they thought they couldn't, but when you actually show them there's a way to do it, and hold that consistency in terms of performance, they realize their potential, and they're like, man, okay, well, if I thought I couldn't do this and I did it, what else do I think? What other self-limiting beliefs do I have that I can potentially just shatter with some hard work and some guidance? And those are kind of the three things I would say. And in terms of like managing a team, and in terms of being the person in charge, everything fundamentally goes back to ownership. If something goes poorly, it's your fault as a leader. It doesn't matter who did it; it's still your fault, because you either didn't provide the right guidance, you didn't have the right person in the right job at the right time, and you may need to move that person to a different position, or even if it's like a kind of a bad scenario where this person's bringing the rest of the team down, and or a really negative force in that team, like you have to remove them, period. The mission of the team is to get a job done, and if somebody's weighing that down, then you have to get rid of them, right? And that's tough call, but it's still your call. Yeah. And taking ownership of the team is of any team, business, military, whatever it is critically important. Nobody likes the person that's always pointing their finger and saying, oh, it's so-and-so's fault. It's so-and-so's fault. It's like, no, like take your finger, point it around at yourself and say, it's my fault. Maybe it's 10%. Like, what of that 10%, or of that 100%, like I own 10% of that because of XYZ factor. And how do I change that in the future? How could I influence the outcome of this scenario in a different way?
Yeah. Great answer, man. That's absolutely spot on. Couldn't add anything to that. But from a personal standpoint, then, like for you as the pilot, what were some of those big ones for you in terms of just high performance, man? So obviously, flying the demo, you've got to get things right. You've got to get it spot on. It's high precision stuff. There's a lot of parameters, and beyond just, screaming and pulling a load of G's, you've got a lot of, red tape and stuff around all of it too. So there's so much to keep in mind. Some other teams in the past I've spoken to, they spoke kind of debrief, pre-brief, visualizing, but for you, what were some of the biggest things that went into making your performances high performance, basically? And what do you think someone could take away from here that you were doing pre, post, during performance time, either in for you or just like in your sort of routines and stuff, that was just having like the biggest effects on performing well and getting it right?
Yeah, great question. I think it's going to vary based on person, but for me specifically, I really enjoyed going to talk to people before the air shows, but probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours prior to the show commencing, I would kind of stop everything I was doing and make sure I focused. So we would brief the show about an hour and a half prior to the flight. And that was with myself, the safety observer, the team chief, the superintendent. So it's not just, me flying the airplane out there. It's, we have a person's narrating, we have a person that's running the music to synchronize everything. So all the maneuvers, when the jet banks up, there's a beat drop to a song, all that stuff is very well choreographed and synchronized. And then also what it allowed us to do is actually we could change songs based off locality. So as we went to a different area of the country, we changed songs to be more like, representative of that different, area. And that precision allowed us to, seamlessly change music and still create the same high level performance for them and the crowd to experience. So the practice thing obviously is important. We go through an upgrade process. That's about 21 flights before we become the demonstration team pilot and we get certified. And I would probably fly at least one practice a week if I wasn't doing an air show. And then if I was doing an air show, I'm flying 3 air shows and 2 other flights every weekend as we went to the shows. So to me, that once again, the focus to me really was managing and leading the team. And the flying, I wanted to be, the most precise, watch, most precise Swiss watch you could ever imagine. When the guys are up there doing the music and narration, like all the repositions, everything I'm doing in the airplane, I want it to be like, I want to land and I want to be like, man, that was a boring flight. And not because it was boring, like I didn't enjoy it, but it's like, that was a boring, uneventful flight because everything worked as we had planned, as we had practiced, and all the music hits were on time. Everything just worked seamlessly. And that you only get that level of, you only get that state by practicing and having that teamwork, having all those elements that kind of come together, having the trust amongst the team, and if I was out just, shooting from the hip and doing my own thing, then there's no way they can synchronize the narration. There's no way they can synchronize music. The crowd's probably gonna be like, what's this guy doing? So it's funny. We have, you've probably seen him on Instagram, Mark Finger, who's an aviation photographer who lives, he also is in a lot of other amazing things. He's just a very fascinating and amazing human being, but he lives near the base in Virginia and he would come out and watch the demonstrations and film them. And I was talking to him one day and he was like, I can take, if you tell me like any day, like, hey, I want to look at the pedal turn from July 21st, 2021. He's like, I can go pull the video from that day and I know exactly what time to look for because you're that consistent every time. And, so to me, like that was really important. One, because it creates a performance that's amazing for the crowd and it's consistently good. And also, like I said, just it's a quality thing, right? You don't go to Cirque du Soleil and see the acrobats kind of doing their own thing. You go to Cirque du Soleil and watch this amazing choreographed performance because you're there for a show. You're there to be entertained and inspired.
Really curious now, actually. So how does the choreograph piece work, especially with the music? So have you got, is the music playing in your headset while you're doing it? Have you got like a timings thing on your lap? Like how does that look?
Yeah, great question. So it takes a lot of people to get that to work, right? So we have I mean, before I joined the team, there was no dedicated music person that actually did any of this stuff. So for me, what we did was we basically took all the maneuvers, figured out how much time it takes to get from, let's say I'm going to reposition. So, pardon me, I'll use my phone, for example. Let's say I'm flying and I like do a reposition to turn back into the air show. When I start that turn, they'll basically start the song and they will tell me on the headset, let's say hack 1-6. So that means in 16 seconds, you need to be, at the place doing the thing for the next maneuver. And we just kind of figure out those natural points where it made sense, where like I'm rolling, I'm turning, and they can visually see that. They can start the music. Obviously at this point, like I had all these times memorized anyways, but when they hit play on the song, then I know how much time do I have to get to this point. I would run the GPS coordinates of the show center point or to where we needed to be for that turn and then maneuver. I would basically run timing to that point and I would adjust the speed back and forth to get to that point at the exact moment, and make sure that everything was synced up properly. But no, there's no music in the headsets at all. It's all based off just communication with the team. So like effective communication as we're flying the demonstration and knowing the timing of the songs. And then as we went to these places, for example, if I know that I need 16 seconds before the beat drop of the song, and now, let's say I'm doing a show in New York and now I'm going to Texas, I'm going to find a more Texas appropriate song and I'm going to find, where the beat drop is that we want to play. And we would talk about this as a team. We'd figure out, okay, what do you like? What do we like? What's the area? And then from there we would take a song, find the beat drop, cut the song to 16 seconds prior and then play beyond that. So we could just drop, plug and play these songs to create that kind of personalized experience for the location, but not sacrificing any precision when it comes to the actual display and performance.
Just running a quick ad break here, guys, for the sponsor of today's episode, Aviate. Aviate are a fantastic watch brand that make aviation-inspired watches. I've got a few of them. They sent a few out. They are just amazing, great watches. And I've got a very special 20% off discount for anyone who's listening into the show today. So head over to av-8.com and use code Louis Skupien 20 at checkout. And you're going to get a meaty 20% off any full-priced watch. And obviously, man, you're going to have a great watch at the end of it too. They're really, really good. And there's loads to choose from, all with their own bit of backstory and history and inspiration from pieces of history. So yeah, head over to Aviate, guys, use the code. And yeah, back to the episode now. See you in a moment. Stuff, man. That's really, really interesting points there. Okay, best question of the day then. Just popped to my head then. So best Talk4 question ever. So what's the best song to fly to, man? Or what's like the playlist essential for cranking up your motor, you're getting out in your Cessna or your Extra or your fighter jet or something? What are you putting on the playlist, dude?
I'll answer the question with like the song that we changed almost every song in the playlist over the 3 years I did the demonstration team, exception of one. And the one song we didn't change was a song by a friend of mine, Granger Smith. He's a country music artist out of Texas, and a phenomenal story. I mean, when you talk about a story of resilience and faith, overcoming a lot of adversity, like, pick up his book, Like a River. It's a really good read, really powerful read. But he basically did this thing where, so his grandfather flew in World War II, and he did this thing where he hiked through Big Bend National Park for 5 days. And the whole point of that was he told the story of 5 Gold Star families. So I'm not sure what in the UK the terminology would be, but for in the States, a Gold Star family means you're a family member of somebody that was killed in service to the nation. So he walked through Big Bend National Park, which is an absolutely beautiful property, national park, Southwest Texas, and he told the story of these 5 young adults who served and passed away in the military. And each one of the 5 days he hiked, he told a different story of a different individual. And he wrote the song called "They Were There." It talks about the service members and their sacrifice to our nation. And obviously, there's a lot of patriotism and pride in the UK and Australia and like all over the globe, right? Of people that sacrifice for our way of life in our respective countries. And every country has its ups and downs and pluses and minuses, but the people that protect our way of life and our culture, like we have to be supremely thankful of their sacrifice to continue to do things like this and have our podcast and talk and fly airplanes at air shows and whatever. So They Were There is the only song that we did not change, and I was pretty firm about that. I was like, yeah, we're not changing that one song, and it was during the dedication pass. So the dedication pass is meant to take a moment of the air show and say thank you to all those military members, first responders, that have sacrificed everything for our way of life, and the jet basically does a low arcing pass from behind to the right of the crowd, where it flies in very low, very fast. And then as it gets to the right of the show, it banks in as a pretty aggressive turn across the crowd line. And, that bank would happen synchronized with the chorus of that song. So that to me was like the one song I wasn't negotiating on in terms of keeping it in the playlist. And once everybody heard the story, there's actually a documentary on YouTube. You can actually look it up. They Were There, Granger Smith, and see that whole kind of experience of 5 days in Big Ben and him telling the stories as well. But once they watched the documentary, they heard the lyrics of the song, they understood the importance of it and what it meant. Everybody was like, "We're never changing this song," you know. So yeah, I think that was probably the most powerful one that I really enjoyed. Um, I mean, it's a great song.
Yeah,
I think
I need to
powerful
note that.
lyrics.
I need to note that down and get that on my playlist, dude. What's it got? What's it called again? And the artist one more time.
Yeah, it's called "They Were There,"
Mm-hmm.
and it's by Granger Smith.
Brilliant. I'm gonna go and have a look at that as soon as we're wrapped up here. But man, that's such a great place for us to lead into what you're doing now. Then, so catch up with Cabo. So after you left the military and the cockpit and stuff. So what's going on for you now? Like, what's the mission for you now? What are you up to? And talk us through the kind of foundation work you're doing. And I know you obviously alluded to some of the stuff that you've got in the pipeline. So share what you want to share, and just want to hear what you're up to, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. So I left the Air Force last August, and I started flying at a corporate job. So it's a corporate flight department. There are just two of us that fly the airplane. Small company in Reno, and I love that the I guess the level of intimacy where it's just like a very small team of one director of maintenance, two pilots, one airplane, and that's just it. It's great to have a small team that you get to fly with, and trust, and you build relationships and friendships and all those things. And the person I fly for is absolutely incredible. I can't say enough positive things about him as a human being. He really values people, really values helping others. And whether it's business, investing, whatever it is, and so I'm just very thankful and appreciative to work for somebody that I look up to and respect a ton. So that's my full-time job. I also work in the Nevada Air National Guard. So the Air National Guard is kind of a subsection, if you will, of the Air Force as a whole enterprise. I work there part-time at Nellis Air Force Base here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and work as an F-22 subject matter expert, helping out with the operational test and development of the F-22. So I do those things. I'm also working some aviation consulting work as well, and also helping a friend of mine. He just purchased another just phenomenal human being that's a business leader, works in the tech industry, and he's he owns a company that's incredibly successful. His story is phenomenal. He moved here from India a long time ago, and kind of if you will, like the American dream, right? He shows up here and works incredibly hard and is wildly successful. So helping him out, kind of mentoring him as he transitions to a new airplane. And that's been incredibly rewarding. He lives near me in Reno, so getting to do that. And then also working a little bit with the museum in Southern California, Planes of Fame. So they're incredibly busy. So it really comes down to scheduling, and whenever people are in town, there's stuff to do. Then I'll fly down there and help them out as much as I can, or as much as is needed. And then you lose the foundation. So one of the big reasons why I left the Air Force last summer, I left after a little over 15 years of service, and people look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, "You didn't just want to stay into 20 years and get your retirement?" Um, I view time as our most valuable resource. We can't buy it. We can't get it back. We can't change decisions. We can't do any of those things. And when I was starting the demonstration team job, a really good friend of mine, Brian Phillips, call signs Mayhem. He's an F-15 pilot part-time in California, and I've known him for a long time. He asked me the question of, all right, so you have a kind of a crazy story, like most of your family moved here from Cuba. you've lost both your parents, you've, lost, like, there's all these things that have happened, it's like you've still managed to be successful in what you're doing. Like, that's a pretty powerful thing, right?
Yeah.
So this demonstration team job is going to last for 2 to 3 years. And then when you're done with that, like, what do you want to do? And it was a kind of a profound question. He said, when you're 80 years old, looking yourself in the mirror, what do you want to be proud of over the course of your life? Like, demo's gonna be obviously one of those things because it was awesome, but it's 2 to 3 years. So what is it that you're gonna be super powerful? Like, what's your masterpiece? Stealing a phrase from a new friend, Chris, and he's like, "What's your masterpiece? What do you want to work on in your life that's going to be fulfilling, rewarding, and make you proud when you're 80 years old, looking in the mirror?" And to me, when I thought about that for a long time, like, man, it's a pretty serious question. Let me
Yeah.
have a think about that.
A loaded question.
And yeah, so I was like, man, what do I value? What are my values? What do I think is fun um, and fulfilling? And what I kind of came to was the decision that I want to help the next generation of young adults in our country um, achieve whatever level of success they want in whatever industry they want, and inspire them to realize that no matter what hurdles we have, no matter what obstacles we have, there's a way past them. If it's a person or if it's a thing, there's a way past it. And then I figured out, okay, what things do I like doing? Well, I like flying airplanes. I like being outside in the mountains. I like camping. I like doing outdoor activities. So like, kind of this foundation kind of just merges all those things together, and finding young inspirational people that have gone through some adversity in their life and found a way past it. It could be faith, family, the military, working out, academia, whatever it is, right? There's something that got them past that point. They could have had family issues, they could have had substance abuse issues, like, the list goes on of things that people deal with on a regular basis. And when we honestly, we talk and interact with people every day. We have no idea what struggle they're facing. No idea, right? But people are facing internal battles all the time, and obviously with lockdowns and now the development of tech, people are on their phones, and while we're allegedly more connected than ever, like, we're more separated than ever as
Yeah.
well, right? So how do we find a way to tell these inspirational stories of young adults that have overcome something and share that? Because while the podcast, with a 50, 60-year-old billionaire may be very compelling and they may have amazing advice. If they're at that point in their life, they definitely have amazing advice. Um, but it's not tangible, it's not relatable anymore to a 15-year-old going through school who wants to achieve success but is dealing with some kind of adversity in their life. And to me, if I can find a more tangible solution, i.e., somebody that's demographically closer in age, has maybe a similar background, similar story, and then now we equip these people with these skills, these tools that they can use in their daily life to kind of get past that point and achieve success. Like, that to me is a very meaningful, rewarding life. Because that now impacts future generations of young adults who are now going to continue to lead and be the future of our country. And maybe, who knows, maybe we expand, we have a UK chapter of this foundation a couple of years. It'd be great. But I
Yeah.
think it's really cool. And I think on a larger scale, it also facilitates dialogue, right? You have somebody from New York that has a very unique story of what they grew up, what it was like growing up in the Bronx, or then you have somebody from like West Texas or somebody from California, and like, while they're on the surface level, their experiences and their environment may look very different. I think when we distill everything down to humanity, we realize a lot of the issues we deal with, they may seem to be different, but they're actually rather similar. And if we find a level to connect on, like a human level, and we kind of practice practice the gratitude, practice understanding, and practice communication with each other, then I think we have an ability to achieve great things.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's kind of the
people
overall of it.
say
Yeah,
that the two most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day you find out why. Do you think that's your why then?
absolutely. I think so. I think for the first bit of my life, I really enjoyed flying fighter jets, and obviously it's still amazing. What I found as I went on through my career flying, the thing I enjoyed the most was teaching other people, and seeing them succeed in airplanes. Because much like the demonstration with the team of maintainers that keep the airplanes flying, when we go to combat, we don't go by ourselves. We go as part of a team. And you know, if you're not investing your time and effort into training other people on your team, then your team's not going to be great, and you've been ineffective as a leader, as a fellow pilot, etc. So I really enjoy the teaching aspect. And then when I did the demonstration team job, and I realized, man, there are a lot of it sounds terrible, but I think it's sadly true. There are a lot of youth that are kind of wandering through life aimlessly with no direction, and they unfortunately, just need some guidance. They need some like inspiration to pursue whatever it is they want to do. Because a lot of times people, especially if you're a young child, and you have these perceptions that were built in by your parents, your friends, your teachers, whoever it is, that have these ideas that you can't achieve X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, like you absolutely can. You have to shift your mindset, and you have to shift what you're doing, and then maybe the people you're surrounding yourself with. And if we share these inspirational stories of young adults that have done exactly that thing, then now we can potentially empower people to do other amazing things and kind of expound, upon this concept. And to me, using aviation is just very inspirational. I think it's a very tangible way for people to kind of break down barriers. An example is like if I put somebody back in an airplane and we go fly, and they're like, I've never flown. Two, I never thought I could ever fly or ever be a pilot. And then I give them the controls, and they're flying the airplane, and they're like, holy cow, I'm flying. Like that light bulb moment of them like saying, wow, like I'm flying an airplane, just completely shatters any pre-existing ideas of what they can or can't do, and the limiting thoughts and beliefs kind of go away. So I think aviation is a very powerful tool for that. I genuinely just really enjoy seeing people succeed and do well, and if I can help them in any way, shape, or form, I want to. So that may shift in terms of how it looks over time, but that's ultimately what I find most valuable, is helping other people achieve whatever success they want, and the sad thing is sometimes people don't want your help, or they say they want the help and they're not willing to put in the work, and that's part of it too. But it's economies of scale, right? You're trying to like get the most amount of impact you possibly can, and and that's what I think is going to be the defining kind of concept for the rest of my time here.
Yeah, man, that's really sweet. That's a great message to give out to people. I really admire that. If we go with the very, very last question of the day, then here, if you had a minute to put a little message out to a young lad, someone, or young lad, young girl, struggling maybe, just feel like maybe they're being pushed down a wrong direction in life, or feel like they have a passion in something, but they're going down a different route, maybe because of outside influences, or they're just seeing hard times, or they just aren't privileged people. What's your kind of minute message to those people to round us off today?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? And I would say to any of those young people listening, right, and they're dealing with all these things, trust your intuition, trust your instinct to what you're feeling, right? So if you're sensing stress, pressure, and it's being brought on by a person, an event, an experience, a thing, like there's definitely a time and a place to push yourself and have that anxious stress, that anxiety, like to succeed and do well, like before like a football match, and you're like, man, I'm nervous, right? That's good energy, that's good stress. Practicing for those things, that's amazing, right? But there's also a kind of stress that's like incredibly damaging and negative, right? So if you have the ability to get yourself out of those situations and surround yourself with people that are supporting you, do that. My belief is, for example, you, Louis, like if I'm not on Team Louis, then I shouldn't be in your life. If you're not on Team Cabo, then you're not in my life, right? You want to surround yourself with the people that are on your team, that want the best for you. When you're sleeping at night, they're thinking about how are they going to succeed? How are they going to do better? So I think surrounding yourself in an environment of people that are that way and supportive is amazing. The other thing I think that's so simple, health is wealth, if you will. Like your diet, working out, those two things are completely within your control. It's discipline, right? Like discipline of what you put in your mouth when you eat, and working out. Those two simple things, if you're feeling stress, anxiety, pressure, whatever it is, if you do those things consistently, you make good decisions with what you eat, and you make good decisions on working out every day. Like you get consistently over time, you're going to see a dramatic transformation. If you are as a person, how you're feeling every day and how you interact with the world. So change your environment if you can, and invite the people that are on your team, and change health and wellness pieces of your life. I think you'll see remarkable changes.
Beautiful, man. That's a great way to round it off. Dude, shameless plug then. So obviously, we spoke about the foundations and stuff. So just take a minute, dude, and just send us over to kind of, the links and the social media points, for yourself, so we can follow you and see more of what you're up to, and also anything that you kind of want to plug and promote in terms of the stuff that you believe in or whatever. Just take a minute, man, and send people over to stuff that you'd recommend and your own bits and bobs that you're up to.
Okay, yeah, great. So yeah, I guess up front, my Instagram is at Cabo Gunderson, CABOGUNDERSON. I've got LinkedIn as well, just Joshua Gunderson or Joshua Cabo Gunderson on LinkedIn on the business side, and then for YouTube, it's Cabo Gunderson 22. And apparently somebody tried to steal my identity on YouTube, and I couldn't get Cabo Gunderson, so I had to do Cabo Gunderson 22, but whatever. So those are kind of my personal ones. The name of the foundation is Uplift Aviation Foundation, and it's that way on Instagram as well, at Uplift Aviation Foundation. That's still in its nascent stages, so part of the process is making sure the legal stuff is squared away, and airplane acquisitions and all the stuff that needs to get done on the foundational level to get this thing going and actually execute. We'll plan on doing that this year. To start actually doing trips and taking young people up flying, which would be great. So that Uplift Aviation Foundation is the Instagram. And then, I'll be putting updates on both Uplift, because it's a very small page, and then also my own personal page. So if you're following either one of those, then you'll probably get updates on the program and where we're going with the foundation there. The other thing too is I think in terms of shameless plugs, another thing I'm involved in is it's called the Veteran Fund. It's a venture capital fund, and it's basically focused on dual use technologies, and it's supporting veteran founders. So people that are in the leadership structure of that starting company need to be, veteran spouses, et cetera. So I think it's, and I say the Veteran Fund only because I think the values and the mission set of what they're doing, or what we're doing in the Veteran Fund, is really something important to me, and that's transferable to the UK. It's transferable to Australia. It's transferable to Canada. It's transferable anywhere, really. It's like, how do we support these people that have served our countries, our respective countries, and done amazing things to protect our way of life and what we value? How do we support them as they transition into the business world? As an entrepreneur, as a new founder. They have spent this amazing time and gotten this amazing leadership experience in the military. Like I said, this is completely transferable to other countries as well. And the Veteran Fund here in the States is focusing obviously in the United States, but how do we support them? Because they have some amazing ideas, and they have the leadership skills, they have tactical skills on the military side and some of the tech sides as well, but they don't have the business knowledge, right? So how do we support them? And I would just encourage people to think about that and say, we have an amazing talent pool of people that have these amazing experiences in leadership and life and serve our country. How do we support them as they transition out of the military into, the real world, into the rest of the life that everybody else lives every day? And if they want to pursue a business, how do we support them with the skill sets? You said you have a lot of business folks that listen to your podcast, and to ask them, like, what initiatives are you and your business taking to leverage this amazing talent pool you have in your respective country that potentially is going unnoticed? Potentially these folks are leaving service and not leveraging the amazing experience and knowledge and leadership they have from the military. So that's something that's very important to me. And once again, I think the Veteran Fund as a investment fund, or as a venture capital fund, is aligned with those values and that mission, and is very, very tightly focused on that niche, and I think as a result, it's done really well, and it's awesome. So I think it's a very purposeful venture.
Man, that's a great mission set you've got. It's wicked stuff. And yeah, dude, I'm glad to have had you on the show today. It's been a great chat. I was really looking forward to having you on, and you've hit all the expectations, dude. So thank you for joining me today for the show, bro. Absolute pleasure having you on. I hope to see you in the future.
Perfect. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you in the States for the airshow season.
Hell yeah, man. It's going to be good. And yeah, guys, thanks for listening. This has been episode 111. If you'd like to listen to the past episodes, go and have a look at the channel. And if you'd like to listen in for the future ones too, make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, yeah, go leave a rating and a review. It makes a massive difference. But yeah, guys, fights on, and see you in the next video. Cheers.